Hey, it's Robert Clickybeard, the host of the Commercial Landscaper podcast. These podcasts challenge you to grow as a leader, to stretch yourself beyond your comfort zone, and to 10x your company. I really encourage you to enjoy the show, share it with teammates, fellow business owners, and subscribe. That helps us grow our community. This podcast is sponsored by Bum Data, helping commercial landscapers turn labor data into smarter decisions with intuitive, actionable analytics. Check them out if you're ready to control your labor costs and boost your margins. When you mention Wilson T60, you'll get 1 month free subscription to check out this amazing software. Hi, this is Robert Clickybeard with the Commercial Landscaper podcast. Really excited today to be joined by Justin Mangold. Justin, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So for our audience, I always like to ask them a little bit about their background in the industry, where they're at, what company they're involved in. So if you could go ahead and spend a few minutes doing that.
So here in the western suburbs of Minneapolis, born and raised here, I've been blessed that this is one of those things that I've always loved to do. So I was that classic guy, like many in this industry, where I started as a kid mowing lawns, turned into landscaping, and then the next thing and the next thing. So I worked for myself through college, and then I went and got a real job where I worked for somebody for about 9 years, and then decided it was time for me to do my own thing and that, put money where my mouth is. It is now 10 years later. I can't believe it, but Mangold Horticulture has been around for 10 years. And that is really, the driving force at this point of my team is trying to do a full service landscape. So what we do differently than most companies is we're very garden centric. We would say there's a lot of companies out there that say they're full maintenance, but they don't have finesse, fine detail work. First, that's like the core of us as a horticulture company. We have very high-end gardeners that can do all of that fussy work, whether it's your front entrance, your back pool, whatever. But we still have the muscle too of like, hey, we need to fix this boulder wall. We need to put down 250 yards of mulch. And so that's where we kind of corner the market. And it works really well for us, both with residential clients and then the HOAs. Think of your homeowners associations as really a baseline, consistent type of work that then wants add-on projects, and we love to work through those clients and build off of them as to what we can do for them. We're about 55 people. We'll do about 8 million this year is where we're at today.
Awesome. Good job. I mean, 8 million, and I think you said 10 years?
Correct. Yep.
So good. Nice growth there.
Yeah, it's amazing. That time flies, and it's like on to the next thing, and you're just looking back at this moment and really proud of, how we've gotten here, and on to the next thing, trying to figure out what that plan is and what we're going to do.
Talk through some of those hurdles or challenges as you went through those first 10 years. I mean, obviously it seems like you've now found your niche, in terms of just that high detail, but company must have evolved over these years.
For sure. I think that the biggest thing that we have is that I broke the playbook of, they say, start simple, only do one thing. And being someone who had been in the industry for a long time, we jumped in with the whole, we're going to do full care. So I had a lot of Renaissance players when we were younger that could do a little bit of everything. Imagine the guy who's mowing your lawn is also adjusting your sprinkler systems and deadheading your flowers. And that worked great. And we were nimble and it could do some amazing work. But as you scale up, you just cannot do that in volume, right? The training and the crews it doesn't work. And so we had to get through that transition. That was a real hard thing for us to go from being that specialty tech type operator to true crews that are more siloed, and this is what we're good at and this is what we do. Because when you get good at something, you can actually train and repeat those fundamentals rather than saying, hey, you've got to know everything about everything we do. I think we're on the backside of that, but it's an ongoing challenge of trying to really dial in like, okay, these are the departments, these are the people, this is what they need to know, this is where those responsibilities lie. It's really a classic problem that I think we made harder for ourselves by how we started out as everybody kind of does everything.
Just off camera, we were talking about this as your first week where you're kicking things off, because we're now in the second week of April. A lot of companies talk about doing training. Very few actually do training well and have a really good program, but it sounds like you've really developed your team. You've got that high detail. You've got people really experienced with those different elements. Talk me through some of the stuff you...
Well, so that's one of the things we're really working on right now is for us to continue to grow and to scale, we've had to do that where it's like we start to silo people and then we start to actively make sure this is clear what your responsibilities are, right? Trying to really get to the level of what do I need to know at this position and what is expected of me. So we've gone through all the classic stuff of having that work tree of what the different job levels are and what's expected at each level and how you can climb that tree. But then as we broke it down into individual divisions, there's the fact of you can find good people, but you can't find a ton of people that already know the Mangold way, right? And so we work really hard on what is our farm system internally to build these people up and to get them to understand what's expected at where they are today and what their options are to grow within the company. Now, as we say that, we really push ourselves and pride ourselves on that we're trying to be somebody that you know and trust as a customer level. All of that leans into we want these people to think of it as a career, not just as a job for the summer. So one thing leads to another, and we are here in Minnesota, and yet we try to keep our entire staff on year round. So we take the winter as heavy training to try and get them ready for next year. We certainly do snow when it snows here, and we're doing miscellaneous projects in the shop, but we're trying to internally build out training programs that can be implemented in the winter so that, whether you're on a turf crew or a garden crew, you are actually getting some content week after week in the winter, not just using that downtime to, do fun stuff and go home and do whatever. Because we think if you're career oriented, you want to be building your skill set and you want to be continually understanding what's going to be at the next level. And so that has really been one of the things that's been successful as we transition right now is to getting people clear expectations and clear training internal.
Assuming that starts when somebody knocks at your front door, hey, I'm looking for a job. What does that look like? I mean, do you have some type of a career ladder or some type of visual there to say, hey, you're going to come at this level, but this is potentially where you could be. And these are the things that you do along the way with, salary ranges. We do train during the winter. So that must be pretty appealing to see that type of stuff.
So I could certainly do better on visualizing it to the new hire right out the gate. So we certainly have internal documentation and here, we can hand you this and you can read through it and understand where you're at and what it looks like at each of these levels and what are the things we want you to do. We have not gone to, like you're talking about, Robert, of actually visualizing it so it's on the wall that somebody can come in here and say, I'm at this, I want to get to that. It's much more like, here's the manual, pull it out and kind of work through it. It is kind of in that it's still a heavy, wordy, this is a document that has almost more content than you need rather than being here's the outline exactly of what we have going on. And I think that is something that will be good for us to figure out how to visualize this to the team. Because right now we're talking about it and then we're throwing them, here's a Word document to review. Trying to gap that for a new person, I think long-term would be really good for us. And we just haven't got there yet.
Any success stories that you've seen as you've started this journey?
I mean, I'm super proud of my team here. Our success is around that we've really got people here that love what they do. So I'm a big believer in that. I'm trying to make this not only career oriented, but a atmosphere of we're not a family here, but we definitely are here because we want to be and that we love what we do. I tell all of our clients that I love this. This is what I want to be doing. I didn't end up here by accident. This is my intent. And I try to make sure that my team is reflecting that down the line so that every time you have an experience with us, hopefully it comes across, if not at least that you love it, that you're enjoying what you're doing. I don't have to have everybody be as over the top as I am about it, but we truly believe that if we have passionate people, we'll have outstanding results. And how do we continue to make that true for our clients? And so part of that is you just have to be constantly speaking it into being, right? You tell the client that, and then you go back and you tell the team that you told them that, and then have that kind of bounce off of each other, and that you really just have to be committed to that day in and day out. For us, it's just been one of those things where it's like you repeat that drum again and again. People ask oh, how are you growing so much in 10 years? And it's like, well, we stay true to this and we repeat the same things again and again. It's not rocket science. It's about just continually doing it and being present in the same way to your clients.
Yeah, well, one of the things you just reminded me of is, just building that culture, trying to get people through the system. We would have regular staff events. We would have, soccer games. We would have some carnivals, just to, again, help that whole, employee development to make them feel as though they're part of the company. I always chuckle when people use that whole family piece as maybe part of their core values. Unfortunately, there are some dysfunctional families out there. So I always cringe a little bit when they used to that family piece. But, you can build an amazing culture, and a lot of the time it comes from the top down, but you really have to get that buy-in. You have to treat your employees as well to be able to sort of just create that great vibe within the company.
I mean, I think the difference between a business and a family is that it's very much more of a, like, we have a shared goal and you need to stay committed to that goal, versus a family. You don't have to have a shared goal. You're just committed to each other. And so it's a little different lens, but very similar. I put it another way to my team. This is a job. I want you to love what you do. But if you hate it 2 days a week, I don't care. As long as you love it the other 3, great. If you hate it 3 days a week, you shouldn't be here, right? You got to love it the majority. If you're at 50-50, personally figure it out. But as long as most of the time you're coming in here and enjoying what you're doing, we're on the right track. If you're dreading work, you're going to drag everybody else around you down, whether that's the team or the clients. It really matters. And so having that mindset of like, okay, some of this is still a grind that I don't like, and that's part of work, right? This is just getting through what we have to get done.
Obviously, you do your best to try to hire people, trying to pick the right people to fit in with your culture. You try and explain to them about the vision of where you want to take them and build that career. A lot of people will say the right things and nod their heads at the beginning. You quickly find out they're not a good fit. How do you handle that type of scenario?
I have a ton of great tenured staff that are coming back year after year, but there's no doubt that on the intro level of like, we give them, hey, here are all these lofty goals you can do. There's some people who are going to come in here in the first few months, be like, wow, this is actually more work than I want, or I don't enjoy this as much as the people around me. Our attrition on the intro level is high, but I'm of the mindset of like, we would rather have them come in here and quit early than be with us a year and a half and then realize this isn't the right fit for them. Definitely something we're working on is like, how do we have that communication early in their journey, right? So this is having that as HR type conversations of this is your 30-day check-in, this is your 90-day check-in, and trying to make sure that we are still aligned in those moments. That's something that I think we did really well when we were a little bit smaller, right? So when we were more like that 35 people, that's when we were really trying to focus on like the new people coming in the door and caring for them and making sure that this was a great fit for them so that they could excel through our company. Honestly, as we've grown, this is like you take your eye off the prize and then you need to jump back into it. Of like right now, we got up to that 50 plus people and we've been, busy trying to get things done. And I don't know that we're as great at the new hire getting that experience to then get them bought into the long term with us. And we just need to keep reminding ourselves to get back to those good habits and then make them something that we do year after year. It's such a give and take on time, right? And where you can put your time.
One of the things I do a lot of my clients or do some workshops, and we talk about, I use a tool called the talent assessment, and it's a way of identifying who are your A, B, and C players. The goal is to try and get 80% of A players in your company, drinking the Kool-Aid, they're buying into the core values, they're coming in every day, they're just working their butts off. Great people. And, some of the companies I work with have really transitioned out to these B and C players. But I also warn owners that don't forget about those A players. Don't just focus on bringing new people in, and building that bench. You've got to keep those A players there. And what are some of the ways that you do, do you keep some of those A players in your company engaged and bought in?
Yeah, it's a great question. So on the, like the surveys of, personalities, I've done a whole bunch of them and we've done a few of them in-house here, but I never can really figure out how to, take my strength finder and then really apply it to their day to day. We've done some of those things just to kind of get to know the leadership team more as it's built out, because if you look back 4 years ago, it was just 3-4 of us. Now I've really got, 10 people that are roughly making things move and dealing with the team every day. How you engage with them and how you get them to make sure that we're, hearing what they have to say. It's certainly not something we're perfect at, but we're working hard on trying to create an atmosphere that's open and that we can really work as a team. You got to care, you got to be honest, and you got to take this seriously. And we push that with all of our management team. And we do some things like when you're talking about core values, we rate ourselves on core values individually once a year. And then we'll look at how did you rate yourself compared to 1 year ago? Or how do you rate yourself compared to the group overall? We don't call it, one person out against another person, but we'll say, hey, this was your average on this versus the other guys in your department. How do you feel about that? And that's been something that at least can stem a conversation and get something flowing so that hopefully we can catch some pain points and really figure out, what are we doing right or wrong to avoid that again.
Yeah, no, it's great. Again, there's other tools I've used, tools like 360 assessment for reviewing you, which is pretty harsh, but
I'd love to do that. I've never gotten to it. So a down and dirty thing I do with my top leadership team is we rank everybody importance in the company.
Okay.
And there is no ties. So, and I put my name on the list, and I've come down as low as like 4 or 5 on importance at a certain moment in time when we do those rankings, right? And we'll have 3 or 4 of us do that individually, and then we'll compare our rankings to each other. Yeah, we're not going out and telling the whole team this is how you rank compared to the rest of the team, but it's really great when you have your core leaders of like, what are you thinking about in this middle ground compared to me? Right? Because you do the top 5, 6, they're not going to drastically change. Maybe we move around based upon being mad at me today, but overall, those people stay the same. Versus you have that middle ground. That's where the real, rubber hits the road. And you want to make sure as a leadership team, you guys are seeing the same people as being impactful. If you, Robert, thought somebody was great and I thought he's horrible and we're working together, that's really tough for that guy, right? If he's got both of us as bosses at some level in the company, and you want to try and avoid that and be clear.
That's brutal. Yeah, I agree with that. Let's take a minute to thank our sponsors. Urcher is a life brand born from grit, founded by Zach Strausser. The mission is clear: to raise $1 million for the trades by supporting vocational training across North America. Urcher makes tough, smart gear built for landscaping and snow professionals who work hard outside every day in all conditions. Their apparel puts safety first, helps crews look sharp, and honors the pride in their craft. Every purchase has purpose, fueling training programs and building a resilient workforce. Urcher isn't just workwear, it's a culture of respect, resilience, and results. When you contact Urcher, mention Wilson 360 and Zach and his team will take well care of you. You touched on communication. Communication is often a struggle, and whether it be a small or large company. What have you seen as being some of your successes in trying to just continually tweak and improve your communication?
I think externally we're successful. Internally, I'm not happy with where we're at with communication, right? And this is also me being the never satisfied, always pushing for more. So we've done really well at using tools to make sure that we're externally taking care of the client. This is setting up clear processes with our admin team and how we're dealing with things. We are super deep into using issues and tasks so that we have everything accounted for in the history of what happened there. But yet you still have the okay, that's just plain triage and dealing with what happened. How do we avoid it? Right? How do we not have these problems? And that's where our communication is just always feels like it's just a day late or a dollar short. And we're always trying to figure that out. I think it was a problem for us when we're small, when we only had, 15 people, we had communication issues. Now that we have more people, we have more communication issues. It's just an ongoing thing. And for us, that's something that we're constantly talking about. And sometimes I feel like I'm just spinning my wheels. And so, I know it's one of the things talking with you and your team about is being successful at communicating how to get the message across. It's not something I'm saying we have figured out, but we're certainly not giving up on it. We're going to keep, trying to take a bite out of this elephant.
A lot of people think that, all these big companies are all buttoned up and doing well, but sometimes they have.
No, we're a mess at that. We just work really hard at making sure the client doesn't feel it. So the one thing we do successfully at Mangold Horticulture is when we're making mistakes, it's not, oh, I'm sorry, the other department didn't tell me that. You're not allowed to tell a client that. If we, accidentally sent 2 crews there on a day when you said that you didn't want anyone there, we're not going to go and be like, oh, the other department didn't tell me that. We would just say, this is our mistake as a company. This is what we're going to do to make sure it doesn't happen again. But the problem is you're just playing that extra effort the day after rather than getting it right the first time where you can actually make money, right? We all know you don't make money going back to do something later or rescheduling it. You need to hit it right the first time to actually make profit.
No, and you touched on it briefly that there is so many tools and and apps out there. I've seen companies really successfully use tools like Slack, like WhatsApp. Team Engine have got a great program. So I think a lot of the time it just comes down to, the company as a whole committing to it and then constantly tweaking, improving, reminding so that everybody's invested into the program. But I've seen it, I say, work really, really well. So I'm
a big believer in that technology makes things better, but you can't use it 50-60% of the way. Whatever tool you're using, you need to maximize. And we try to think of how can we do everything possible in those systems rather than hey, there's another app to do this. Try to avoid those conversations and try to no, we need to maximize the things that we're using every day.
So I did a webinar recently and studies show that, only typically 30-40% of most apps are utilized.
I believe it. We were looking at, we love Trello. We used to use Trello for a few miscellaneous things, but we couldn't get it to scale up to the whole company. So we're even though we like this, 5 of us that are using it, we need to cut this back because we're not going to scale it to everybody else using it. So then what are we doing with it?
And that's one of the challenges. And, you've obviously done a great job at taking your company up to 8 million, because I see a lot of struggle, getting above 3-4 million, just through either lack of systems, lack of people, not thinking big enough. So the fact that you've taken it up to 8 is tremendous. So you're obviously doing a few good things.
We like to think so. Again, this is, we've been in a successful market. The Twin Cities has been good in the last 10 years. So there's are we riding the market or are we doing something special? The truth is it's both, right? And that we're just trying to make sure that we have our eye on the prize and continuing to figure out what's the next hurdle. I mean, the biggest thing is that you have to deal with today while planning for tomorrow, right? And if you can do that, you can grow.
Just to follow on from that and sort of wrapping things up here in a minute, what would be some of the, maybe 1 or 2 big pieces of advice you give to those, companies maybe in that 2-3 million that just feel as though they're plateauing there, just for them to sort of give themselves a little shot in the arm and give themselves a boost to take them up through the next plateau?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's incredibly basic, but I will tell you that you will be successful with it, in that we have 2 admins here and we've had them for quite a while now when we were a smaller company. And so our phone is answered from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. They have 2 different split shifts. And if you email or call us and we don't pick it up, the expectation is that you're going to get a response from us in the next 30 minutes if it's business hours. Right. It doesn't mean we answer everything in that call, but we will certainly say we're working on it. I will get back to you. And then we try to tell our team to give them some sort of timeline. When I say timeline, I don't say, hey, tell them you're going to get back to them Monday by 9 a.m. because that's a deadline we might fail at. But I can say, hey, I promise you that we're going to be back to you early next week. So it's about setting high expectations internally and then setting a low bar externally that you can then work with, right? So if I say I'm going to be back to you early next week and my team's goal is to get to you 9 a.m. on Monday, we're doing really well. You'll feel good that call already came in. And if we are super swamped and we can't get the answer till the end of Monday or Tuesday morning, well, at least my admin didn't overpromise and you're feeling frustrated that we didn't call you back at 9 a.m. on Monday. It's so small, but if you can do that in volume, you will sell more. You will do more.
Yeah, a lot of people see that, admin help is an expense, and generally it is, but if it frees up time for you to either sell more, network more, bid more stuff, I mean, you're quickly...
100%. You got to train them. So I have internal staff rather than, some people say, hey, you can use some sort of answering service. When we're trying to trick ourselves into it, or I shouldn't say trick, but it's trying to train into a certain language, right? And say that this is how we do it and that we can get that to be consistent, then it doesn't even matter what the sound of my voice is because I'm sending the consistent message to the external, whether it's a client, a vendor, or whoever's calling. We're trying to be really consistent in what you expect from us and what you get.
Justin, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today. How do people get in touch with you if they want to just pick your brain more and find out more about that career path you talked about?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to have anyone reach out to me. Probably LinkedIn is the best. I'm on there if you just want to look up Justin Mangold on LinkedIn and go from there.
Awesome. Justin, really a pleasure talking to you today. Good luck. You're obviously doing a great job out there. So pleasure talking to you today. Thank you.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on. Have a great day.
Okay, cheers. Bye-bye. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Commercial Landscaper Podcast. I hope you're walking away with some great nuggets that you can immediately apply to your business, whether you're in leadership, operations, or you just want to show up every day with that Ironman mindset. Remember, growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens with intentional moves, bold conversations, and surround yourself with the right people. If you found value today, subscribe, leave a review, or share this episode with others. And again, don't forget to check out wilson-360.com. We have digital courses from account management, operational excellence, leadership development, or some of the other coaching packages we offer. Anyway, huge shout out to our sponsors. Thank you very much. And I'll leave with this. Have a pure, dead, brilliant day.